night. Orange and blue in every sight. Rubber CP on the mic. Postgame show about to strike. Fans are roaring, feel the cheer. Queens of York, the atmosphere. Hype the crowd that never tame. Mets Postgame Show brings the flame.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Mets Postgame Show right here on the channels and on X. And we're talking about a New York Mets series victory as they beat the San Diego Padres in this rubber game 6-1. And this was a all-around really good performance for the New York Mets. Brandon Nimmo with the huge home run. Chris, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. This was a really, really good performance. Solid performance from top to bottom. Jonah Tong, bounce back start. The offense getting things done. With the 6-run scored. Brandon Nimmo with a crucial home run early in the game, and the bullpen also gets the job done. The bullpen looked competent, which is probably my biggest takeaway outside of Jonah Tong. So a really impressive game. This was a game, and all these games are games that the Mets need to win down the stretch of this season with only a handful of them left. And this was a team that the Mets needed to beat. Not only looking up at them in the second wild card spot while trying to maintain that third spot, but it's about the precedent, right? Facing good competition, a playoff team, and getting the job done and knowing that you can do that. Hopefully, this is, a confidence booster. Hopefully, it inspires more confidence from this Mets team. I know they have a lowly national about it, but a fantastic win nonetheless. Gotta spam the W's for our Mets one time. Spam those W's in the chat. Thanks for being here with us, everyone. This is a really good feeling. It's good to get out of the way. Now we can enjoy the rest of our Thursday nights, watch some football, and be all good. You know what I mean?
That's right. We do a little bit of scoreboard watching as the Mets guarantee themselves at least a game and a half up by the end of day today. Could possibly be a full 2 games on either the Giants, depending on who wins, who loses. But we're guaranteed at least a game and a half up on the third wild card with 9 games to play, and the Nationals are coming to town. This was not just a solid series victory. It was because it was the Padres as well. The team that was one of our kryptonites that we had hard time beating them over the past couple of seasons. They just don't match up well against us. And yes, we did miss Yu Darvish, and Michael King just came back from injury. It's a second start, but I still think it's a mental hurdle. We talk about this all the time when it comes to the mental games that this team plays with themselves when it comes to different teams, who they play. And sometimes they play down to their competition, up to their competition. This was a situation here where they needed to do what they needed to do against the Padres, because I think it was important. Just the mental hurdle of this team that they just could not beat. They finally done that this time. And you know what? Yesterday was a very annoying loss, but you know what? It was one swing in a bat, right? The Mets felt like they were somewhat in control, and then the Machado home run happened, grand slam happened, and it was just like, damn. But they still made a valiant comeback yesterday, and I felt like that momentum, even though they didn't win that game, the way they kind of try to fight back in that ball game, I thought it was crucial into today's game, where they didn't let that big hit get away from them, and they pitched extremely well, like you said, Chris. And you know what? I know some people were complaining about Jonah Tong only going 5 innings. You got to remember, guys, this was a kid that went through a lot these last 2 outings, and especially his last outing. They wanted him to leave on a good note, with good numbers on his stat line, and leaving with the Mets having a lead. I thought that was important. Again, it looked like this kid is very emotional. You can tell. When things go good, he's smiling every day. When it goes bad, it looks like he's going to cry on the mound. So I thought this was important for Jonah Tong. And I did like Mendoza taking him out in the 5th inning, even though I wouldn't have minded him going into the 6th inning. But you know what? You got a pretty rested bullpen. And you see what a rested bullpen does. I mean, Gregory Soto looked good, Raley, Rogers, everybody looked good today. And when you got a little bit of a rested bullpen, take a kid out that is showing some good signs there. He used his fastball a lot more. I know you brought this up, I believe, one of the shows or a video that you did that you talked about Jonah Tong in regards to with the way his pitch selection basically, and he was really confident in his fastball today, Chris. That was nice to see from Jonah Tong.
Yeah, the fastball was working, but the most important thing that we need to point out with this Jonah Tong start is that he started utilizing a third pitch more.
Right.
It wasn't the changeup that was his secondary pitch today. It was his curveball that he started to throw a lot more frequently. His fastball still dominated, and he made a couple of hitters look silly on two strike counts by watching fastballs right down the middle for some strikeouts, which was really good to see. But that's the one thing that we've been talking about, Jonah Tong. If he can successfully here in the short span of time that he has between now and the playoffs, implement a third pitch that he can utilize on a regular basis, that's going to give him a lot more chances of repeating this kind of start. That's just the bottom line. Whether it was the slider, whether it was the curveball, who cares? Today was the curveball. I think that not only did his fastball look sharp, like you were saying, the curveball was also very important to complement the changeup. And kudos to Jonah Tong or whoever, had this game plan for him, whether it was, the catching duo or Jeremy Hefner. Who knows? Who cares? They got the job done and they made the proper adjustments with Tong, since that Rangers start where he kind of fell apart. But I agree. I don't have any problems with pulling Jonah Tong after 82 pitches. Your bullpen was rested. We didn't get to do a pregame, for the game yesterday. David Peterson again just blew up,
Yeah.
got in trouble in the fifth. There's going to be real conversations that need to be had about David Peterson because he just doesn't look the part right now in the rotation. So we talked about that as well on our pregame stream yesterday. I'm sure we'll talk about it again. I'm sure he will start another game for the New York Mets. But at this point, when you take a tough loss like that yesterday, Juan Soto just being inches away from a game tying home run, and hitting the foul pole against Mason Miller, who looked dominant for the Padres last night, unfortunately, because they have a really good back end of the bullpen. It's all about moving forward the next day and moving forward on to the next game because you just you don't have that much time to dwell and think about the previous mistakes. It's all about execution and looking forward. So we got the win today. The Nationals, a below 500 team. We see two of them between now and the end of the season with the Nationals and the Marlins. They need to handle business against these inferior teams. There is no wiggle room anymore for the New York Mets. And I do think the chat is correct. The Diamondbacks actually have the night off today. So it's 2 games theoretically, gaining the half game up on them. But the Giants are playing the Dodgers in the nightcap, which is a West Coast game. I believe the Reds are also in action today. I forgot who they're playing, but they're also in action. So everything looks good. The Mets are in the driver's seat. That's the most important thing. I talked about it on one of my videos on my channel a couple of days ago. We knew, even with 12 games left before this series, that the Mets were in the driver's seat and they controlled their own destiny. Starting off 2-1 isn't too shabby. We need to go out there and continue to put, the feet to the gas pedal and not let up. And that starts with Brandon Sproat on the mound tomorrow in a Friday night game. But I really do think that this offense is cooking right now. I mean, Pete Alonso, another home run for him. That's 4 home runs in 4 straight games for Pete Alonso. He looks locked in. And I was watching his at bat late in the game when he got the sacrifice fly on that play where Juan Soto was stealing. He was able to get back to first safely, but he ends up with an RBI. Another season for Pete Alonso, by the way, with 120 plus RBIs. Congratulations to him. And I will not be surprised if he eclipses 40 home runs. I think he's too shy. I think he hit his 38th today. So he looks locked in. I was taking a look at all the pitches that, that particular reliever was throwing him. And it doesn't matter. It didn't matter what type of off speed it was. if it was in the zone, Pete Alonso was taking a really good cut at it before that sacrifice fly. Even though he was fouling off some pitches, until he got that one pitch that he can put in play for an RBI, that's exactly the type of at-bats that need to carry over and transfer over into the rest of the team. And if that happens, there's no stopping this offense. But
Yeah.
you got to, tip your cap to Brandon Nimmo, really creating that separation today to make it a 5-1 game. A really good swing on a ball on a 1-2 count, a disadvantageous count. But Brandon Nimmo, again, with the power that he has the ability to put the ball out of the ballpark consistently. We've gone back and forth on whether that should actually be his game. But I will say, if you're continuously batting him in the cleanup spot, you're going to need some extra base hits, some home runs out of Brandon Nimmo. And he provided that today. Really, really solid offensive performance.
Yeah, like you said with Pete Alonso, it's fourth straight home run, and he got it started today. And we all know when Pete Alonso's locked in, the ball is getting hit to center field and right center, and that's what he does best. When he's struggling, that's when he's pulling off, and it's nice to see that he's not pulling off on balls. He's hanging in there, and especially with the breaking balls. That was his problem last year. That hasn't really been like he had his moments this year where, he was pulling off on balls, kind of missing that slider that is his bugaboo. But what he's doing now is, again, this is what we wanted from guys like Juan Soto, Pete Alonso. When you got those two guys going, and make no mistake about it, both of those guys are red hot. And we were only inches away yesterday of tying a ball game, possibly even winning yesterday, if that Soto home run, Soto foul ball hit that foul pole. But yeah, I mean, with Juan Soto and Pete Alonso going, man, I tell you, it's very hard to get those guys out when they're red hot. And you know what? Lindor has looked a lot better. You talked about Brandon Nimmo, who is looking a little bit better at the plate. And again, you talked about his power. But you get those four guys going. Those are the top four that we know. When those guys are going, they're very hard to beat. In the month of August, they were unstoppable because those four guys were doing their jobs. And you see what happens, that the Mets are not easy to beat. Yes, it involves decent pitching, but when those guys are hitting, they can easily put up 6 runs a game. It's not that too much of an issue, but if they can score between 5 and 6 runs per game and get solid pitching performances, it's amazing what a Mets team can do. And I know a lot of Mets fans kind of lost focus on this team, which is understandable. They have not played well, but to not lose a playoff spot after all this rough stretch, which has been a couple of months, and only a few hours throughout the entire season, they actually relinquished a playoff spot, I think is very telling. And that shows a little bit of grit. And I really think we talked about it the other day on the show that, when Francisco Alvarez got hit, you saw the guys come out of the dugout. The camaraderie that we seemed like they were lacking, like the connection as a team that everybody loves to talk about. When they're losing, it's always, this team is disconnected. This team doesn't have no chemistry, blah, blah, blah. You saw that the other night the night when Alvarez got hit. That's something that can bring a team together. And a lot of the guys jumped up over there, and I thought that brought that team together. And I don't think they were not letting this series get away from them, especially after that. Like, you just felt that they started to come together a little bit. And, it's just ironic that Jose Iglesias is in the other dugout on the same field. And, it was the topic of conversation of how big that chemistry is. But again, it means nothing if you don't take care of the next 9 games. And again, we could talk about how many games we need to win, but all you got to do is stay ahead of the teams that are behind you. And that's the goal right now. And that's the key to this team, is that you want to sweep series. But I think if you win series here on out, or let's just say you win the Washington series, you win the Miami series, and let's say we do lose the Cubs series. Let's just go crazy and just do that, right? That's 5 more wins. So that would bring you to 84 wins. Would that be enough? I mean, 5-4 is probably, I think it barely gets us over the finish line, but I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing. I do like what Ricardo said. 6-3, I think, would be probably right in the sweet spot, in my opinion, to be comfortably in my opinion. But again, it also shows like the Giants have not played well after their 10-game winning streak. The Reds have been slowing down a little bit. The Diamondbacks have been pushing a little bit, but they're another team that's kind of hit or miss sometimes. So again, the Mets have full control over everything that goes on in that third wild card spot. And you know what? I know it's crazy, but that second wild card is still up for grabs because the Padres, you see how they are. They make stupid mistakes base running. I mean, my God, how many times have they, the stupid base runner where that run didn't score yesterday? It almost cost them the game. They got very lucky yesterday, and getting tagged out at second twice in back-to-back games. It's just mentally sometimes they lose focus, and that's a team that should be so much better than what they are, but they have these mental hurdles. And you see that the Padres, that second wild card isn't too far fetched because they're a weird team. They're so talented, but they only got a couple more wins than the Mets, so it is kind of weird.
Yeah, unfortunately, they are going to be playing the White Sox in their next series too. So, I mean, that doesn't really help us out. If they're playing a decent team or a halfway decent team, maybe I'd be a little bit more confident about that. But for right now, I think the goal remains is just to get in. And if that means just taking, the third wild card spot, so be it. But that's why, this is such a crucial series against the Nationals at home to take care of business, right? To set the tone, because you don't know how this Mets team is going to look against a good Chicago Cubs team. You don't know how they're going to look against a team that is perpetually a thorn in their sides in the Marlins, right? And even the Nationals have been giving them their fair share of trouble in this season, especially the last go around in DC that I had to sit through and watch a series loss for. But, this is a very, very important Washington Nationals series to set the tone. And hopefully the Mets get outside help and gain a couple of games, because that puts a lot more breathing room there for this team to, I wouldn't say falter, because you never want to see that. But let's just say the Mets, like you said, hypothetically do lose the series to the Cubs. It makes the damage a little bit less there if you go out and, let's say, sweep a team like the Nationals. And let's be honest, there's no reason for this Mets team. I'll knock on wood here. There's no reason for this team at this point, given the sense of urgency, right, that they should be having, for them not to sweep this series. There's no reason for it. Like, I will be genuinely disappointed. I know we talk about series wins here, series wins there over the course of 162. I personally will be very disappointed if they do not sweep the Nationals at home. I think that this is a must sweep going into the last two series of the season. So that's just my personal opinion. But it helps that you're still already 2 games up. You have that advantage, so to speak. And over the next 9 games, I really do think that it's about seeing the production and getting answers on this rotation. Today, the Mets are one step closer in getting an answer on Jonah Tong and their comfort level of where he's going to be at on this team, whether it's in the rotation or whether it's as bullpen help, right? David Peterson, same thing. He's going to get one more chance. He's looked absolutely abysmal in the second half. I think Peterson should go to the bullpen. I don't trust that guy in a big playoff game. I'm sorry. I don't. And that's just the fact of the matter. Senga's going to be up here at some point too. Who knows what he's going to produce? But what I'm watching out for, we expect runs for this offense to put up, right? I mean, 4 runs yesterday. You take away the grand slam. Let's say David Peterson makes a pitch. It's a whole different ball game, and the complexion of the ball game is a whole lot different. And maybe we're talking about a series sweep instead of just a series win. Who knows? Shoulda, coulda, woulda. But that's the type of game where I'm like, okay, I don't care that the offense only put up 4 runs. I care that David Peterson went out there against a good team again and faltered and blew it up. And so that is the primary concern. I want to see how Brandon Sproat goes out there and performs tomorrow. The only answer that the Mets have solidified right now, or should be solidified, is Nolan McLean. There's nothing, you're not touching Nolan McLean. He's taken the ball game 1, perhaps for you, in a wild card series. And the rest is all question marks. They have something to prove. And I'm sure they know that. I'm sure they're being told that. This rotation is fluid. Every turn through is fluid. And so, yeah, that's what I'll say. But good for Jonah Tong to set the tone. Good for him to also get the ERA down a little bit as much as he can after that inflated start. But I think the confidence level, outside of just the numbers, who cares about the numbers at this point, this early on to his career, the confidence level that he can gain from this type of game is going to do wonders for this team. Not only Jonah Tong, but also this team in general. So I see really good at bats. I think the bullpen can look like a fraction of what they look like today, because they got contributions from multiple guys, right? We're talking about Rogers. We're talking about Rayleigh. We're talking about Soto and Diaz. They looked really good. And you know what? Even yesterday, outside of the Stanek, earned run, the home run that he gave up, they posted zeros. It was kind of a little bit uglier. Helsley didn't have a clean inning, but he posted a zero.
Yep.
Who else posted a zero early on in that game that we really needed to see? I completely forget who it was in the early stages of yesterday, but it was good to see nonetheless. Even Dom Hamill got into the game. By the way, the Mets have used the most pitchers in ever. Is that like an
Yeah.
MLB record?
MLB history, yeah.
Oh my goodness. What is it? 46 or 47
40,
different pitchers they've
46.
used?
46.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. Yeah, listen, that's not the way you want to draw it up. I'm sure that's never the goal of any single team to do that, but that's unfortunately what the Mets have had to do this season from lack of production, from injuries, whatever else has come in the way, and they're somehow still here in the playoff spot. I don't know, Rob. Again, I just think the sentiment for the Mets should be going into tomorrow's series is that pitching, question marks, show us something. Offense, please continue to put up as many runs as possible because they still haven't proven that they can win a game or put up multiple wins in a row when the offense only scores 4 or 5 runs. They need to go into that 6 or 7 run territory to make the difference. And that's something that's going to need to change, especially in the playoffs. You're
Yep.
probably looking at lower scoring games going up against teams' aces. The pitching has to hold up its end of the bargain. And that's what I want to see.
Yeah, and speaking about with low runs and close games, that is something that that was the argument I was making over the 8-game losing streak or over the stretch of games where they weren't winning a lot of games. They would lose 2, win 1, lose 3, win 1, and then they went to the 8-game losing streak. The issue with those games, if you just look at why the Mets haven't had prolonged winning streaks of 4, even 3, 4+ games at all, is because of the fact that they can't win in different ways. They have to win 7-6, 8-5. They have to blow out a team in one game. That's the only way they have a chance of winning ball games when the pitching has been so bad. They were lose. Like, look at the last couple of the games where they had 2-0 leads and blew leads. Like, you can't do that. In the playoffs, that's the type of games you're going to be playing. You're not going to be playing a lot of 6-1 games. You're going to be playing a lot of close games, possibly low-scoring games. And the Mets have been very bad at that for most of the season, probably since June. And that's the scary thing that I still concern myself with overall with this team. But still, there should be no excuses. This team should score runs. This team shouldn't have a problem scoring against the Washington Nationals. And on top of that, you do got, arguably your 2 best pitchers going right now in Brandon Sproat and Nolan McLean in this series. So you should expect 6 innings, 2 runs or less from both of these guys. That's that's my expectation for these guys now. Sproat has shown a lot of confidence on the mound. Again, still a lot to be shown from him, but what we've seen so far, it's looked good. We know Nolan McLean has it. Can he continue that? That's the important thing. And listen, there's no reason why everybody wants to go into this national series wanting to sweep. You're at home. Now, if you're on the road, crazy things have happened. I mean, we've all been in Nationals Park where we should have dominated those games, and they find a way to beat us, or split a series, or split a 4-game series, or win a series against us. It's always a problem in Nationals Park. You're at home right now. You got the momentum after this series. You can't have a letdown. So many times this year, the New York Mets have a letdown after a crucial series like this against a really good team in the Padres, and they have a letdown against a lesser team. You can't have that happen. Not with 9 games to go. I don't care if you got to picture the goddamn, Atlanta Braves jersey or the Phillies jersey. Do it. Like, you can't have no letdown right now. And it starts with the starting pitching, but it also starts with the offense jumping on teams. When you jump on these teams, the Padres didn't know what to do when the Mets in the first game in today's game, when you jumped on them early, they kind of struggle. You see how they kind of do stupid things throughout a game, bad defense, bad base running, not good at bats. You put pressure on them. You got to put the pressure on the other team. And there's really no pressure against the Nationals except playing spoiler. But you know what? We got 2 teams that would love to spoil all our playoff hopes in the Nationals and the Marlins, and we played them 6 out of the last 9 games. So the Mets' job is here is don't let that happen, right? In the comments, people are saying 6-3. I think that would be what we would I sign on the dotted line for. I mean, 9-0 would be nice, but that's really wishful thinking, considering that Chicago is trying to get as many wins as possible to put themselves up in a certain seed. Even though I don't think they're not going to have a chance to win the division. I mean, they can, but probably not. But right now, if the season ended today, we would be going to LA to face the Dodgers, and we're in the Dodger Philly bracket. So it's going to be there's not much change there unless the Phillies pass the Brewers with overall record. But right now, it's the Dodgers Phillies bracket at the moment, and if everything kind of lines up that way, that's the way the playoffs are going to start. But look, the Mets are facing two bad teams, Chris. They need to take advantage of it, right? 5-1 should be something that they should be going for. 6-0, yes, of course, we all want that. But 5-1 should be like anything less than 5-1, you should be pissed off at yourself, especially when you're facing the Cubs that are playing for something.
I mean, between the Nationals and the Marlins, because the Cubs comes before or in between
Marlins.
those two series, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there's no. I mean, if you're gonna say the one loss comes against the Marlins, yeah, absolutely, sure, I would believe it. But I'm gonna say it again. I hate to do it, but the Mets give us no choice. This has to be a sweep against the Nationals. It has to be a sweep. I'm sorry. There's no reason to even lose one game here, because at that point, if we're saying 5-1 against those two particular teams, then you're asking for a sweep of the Marlins on the road, and I'm not betting. I would not bet anything. I wouldn't even bet $10 that the Mets do that. So, yeah, we could talk about what the Mets need to do, absolutely, but um, it's right in front of them. It's right in front of them, and we're gonna get the answers soon about how much of a sense of urgency they have as a collective unit. They look good. I agree. Getting off to leads and getting out to leads, the Padres were kind of like, what do we do from here? And at least at the very minimum, I know the Mets were like 0-60 something, I think, this season when trailing after 8. It's really hard to come back and stage a comeback against Mason Miller and their closer Suarez. Really hard to do that. But you know what? I was impressed with the later stages of the game when the Mets were down 6-2 about the at-bats and the continuous fight and putting themselves in a position, with, scratching across a run. I think it was 2 home runs with Alvarez. I forgot who the other one was to make it 6-3 at the time. It doesn't really matter. But I was really impressed with the at-bats, right? Trying to come back and stage a comeback. At least they had some fight. Whereas with the Padres here, that was the difference. As soon as they were down in each of these ball games, the first and the third, it looked like they didn't really want to come back. They looks like they were done and out of it. And that reinforces the idea that you just said with this offense to get the lead early for the starting pitchers. There's a certain method to the madness here. There's a common denominator about how a pitcher pitches and how confident and calm he is on the mound, pitching with the lead rather than needing to be perfect or feeling the need to be perfect. So, yeah, I like what I saw. Congratulations to Juan Soto eclipsing triple digits as well in the RBI category. I think he's got one more home run left to break his career high. He's at 41 right now that he set with the Yankees last season. If you told me that Juan Soto was going to hit more than 41 home runs in a Mets uniform in a year one, I would have told you no way, especially with the ballpark dimensions changing from Yankee Stadium to Citi Field. But guess what? He does not care, because guess what? He is Juan Soto. He's got over 900 OPS. He does it all for this team. He steals bases, 33 stolen bases for Juan Soto. He does not care. He is going, and he's going to continue to go until these pitchers respect him. I don't think that they respect him out there on the bases. And you know what? Good for him. He will have a 40-35 season. He will steal 2 more at the very minimum. And that is just absolutely ridiculous and eye-opening to the rest of the league about how good this guy really freaking is. Absolutely.
So what you're saying is he can't get 7 more stolen bases in 9 games. You don't think he's gonna try every? I mean, he's got to be careful though, because you don't want to run yourself out of an important inning as well.
Right.
'Cause look, he did it a couple. I think it was during our 8 game losing streak. He did that where I think they were up by, or they were down by like 4 or 5 runs, and he stole third base. And it's like, bro, come on. Like, we understand you want to get 40-40, but like, you could blow a rally right there. But he's got to be careful though. But again, against a Nationals team, and nobody in baseball has really figured out how the Mets steal all these bases. Like, they've been the best in baseball percentage wise of stealing bases. So you know what? Take advantage of it when you can, right? That puts the pressure on who? The pitcher and that team. And when you put pressure on another team, just like we talk about all the time, put the ball in play because things happen. Same case goes for stolen bases. Put the pressure on the pitcher, right? We know the Nationals have no pressure. They're not playing for nothing, but they would love to beat us, right? That's their World Series over the next 3 days. Put pressure on them. You're at home. It's a Friday. It's the last weekend of home games for the season. Now, who knows about the playoffs at that point, but for the regular season, it's going to be a packed house. It's going to be a crazy atmosphere, and just do it. That's all I got to say. Get it done. And I want to see everybody step up. I don't want to see certain guys. I don't want to see Alonso and Juan Soto carrying this team, even though it's great. But I want to see other guys step up because, let's be honest, you don't make the playoffs and just count on 2 guys. You got to count on everybody here. I need this bullpen to continue to do what they did today, which is nice to see, but they got to continue it. Nice signs from Gregory Soto. I like that he uses his fastball more. I mean, you throw 97, 98, use it, right? He gets a little too slider happy and it gets him in trouble, or, off speed pitch happy and he gets in trouble. It's nice to see that, but I want to see all this continue. I want to see everybody get better because even though we're winning, if we continue to win, that's great. You get into the playoffs, but you can't count on just 2 guys. It's just not going to work. Overall, you need a couple of pitchers to step up. You need a couple of hitters to step up. That's ultimately how you actually get far in the playoffs. And today was just the ultimate example of when you pitch well and you get clutch hitting, everything comes together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the one thing that I wanted to say about well, first of all, this team in general, especially this series, I mean, the home run ball was alive. I mean, they were hitting home runs left and right. I mean, how many? Today was 2, yesterday was 4, first game was 4 too, so that's 10 total home runs, right? If I'm not mistaken. Or
You
was the
might be
first?
right.
I think
Well,
it's 9 or 10 home runs this series collectively.
it was 4 yesterday. I know that. And what, it was 3 today or 2 today?
2 today, and I think that there was a couple in the first game, no, if I'm not
Probably
mistaken. I'm
9 or
going
10.
back.
Probably 9 or 10.
Somewhere around there. I mean, whatever the number is, it's good to see the ball going over the fence. It could have been more with that Juan Soto, foul ball, but it's good to see this team driving the baseball, right? Yes, there's a way for teams to win games and for you to go ahead and put up runs in bunches by singling a team to death, so to speak. But more often than not, especially with the big guys in your lineup, 2, 3, 4, when you get runners on base, yeah, you need to put the ball in the gap or over the fence, and that's going to really deflate the opposing team. It really, really is. And in game 1, 2 against Michael King, like they did single him to death, quote unquote, in the first inning, back to back to back to back singles, and then unfortunate double play by Vientos up the middle, and then the 2-out RBI that we talked about. I talked about with Nick in the post game show. So there's multiple ways for this offense to be effective, but I'm liking seeing that. I went on a tangent there. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to say about a particular player is that I know he took the 0 for 4 today, but defensively and really this series in general, yesterday he came off the bench and delivered a base hit against Suarez. Brett Beatty. Brett Beatty is looking really good on both sides of the ball, and that's something where I don't care what he does from now until the end of this season. This is a successful season by and
Oh,
large for
oh
Brett
yeah.
Beatty. By and large for Brett Beatty compared to what he's done up
Yep.
until this point of his career. So I wanted to give him a special shout out. I've been very hard on Brett Beatty. I didn't think at times a lot of times that Brett Beatty would even be a part of this organization and make it past the deadline this year, but he's here. The Mets clearly believe in him to some capacity. We'll see what the offseason brings, but he has been a very integral part of this team at second base and third base, bringing the versatility. He made a couple of really good defensive plays today as well. The home run ball, he's at 17 plus home runs. I'm sure he'll hit another to make it 18 between now and the time the season ends. But I just think that's a very underrated thing. And for a guy like myself that's been very hard on Brett Beatty in the past, I have to step aside and give him the proper kudos. He deserves it. It's a really good season that he's putting up. And I think that he's going to be very important for this team, especially towards the bottom third of the lineup, and trying to lengthen out this lineup and not have this lineup rely on just Juan Soto and Pete Alonso in the playoffs, like you just said. So Brett Beatty deserves his flowers without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying that when Brett Beatty's in the lineup, the Mets win, and they're 18 games over 500. When he's in the lineup, there's regardless if he does well or not, for some reason it works. And for a guy who everybody, let's be honest, a lot of Met fans counted them out. Everybody wanted to see Acuna more. Everybody wanted to see Mauricio more. Look who are the last ones standing. It's Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos, and Ronnie Mauricio and Luis Angel Acuna warming that bench. And those are, if you were to poll Met fans 3 months ago, everybody probably wanted Mauricio and Acuna to play every single day. So it just shows you that, like some guys just step up, and those guys deserve to play. And, I think this platoon really hurt everybody, right? I'm not going to just kill individuals here. I'm just not anymore. It's pointless at this point. It's somebody had to step up. I don't want to hear they didn't get playing time. Everybody had a chance to start, right? Mauricio started at third base. Acuna started at second base. They got enough time to win that position over and not make it a question. They both failed, and Vientos finally stepped up and Beatty stepped up, and they took the job. That's all we asked for. Take the job. Somebody step up. All season we were waiting for people to step up. And right now, Brett Beatty and Vientos are stepping up. And unfortunately, Ronnie Mauricio and Luis Angel Acuna, they're just on the bench. They're just keeping that bench warm. And that's okay. Right? I think the platoon really hurt all these guys. Next year, that can't happen. I know we're going well outside the box here, but a decision has to be made. You got to pick guys. You can't have an abundance of all these guys just so you can say you have them. Because, again, all you're going to do is have me, you, the people in the chat go nuts talking about who should be playing, who's not playing, why is this guy on the roster? You got to trade these guys. It's too much. So hopefully that gets fixed in the offseason. But I wanted to ask you something, Chris. With Jonathan really pitching well, and the best stat line of the day is the walks. None. That was big. Because he's averaging around 4 walks per game. I think it's actually 5 now, but let's just say 4. No walks, 8 strikeouts. You saw he got really confident and used his fastball like talked about his curveball. We know Kodai Senga is pitching today, actually. So if you just do the math, with the off day on Monday, right? It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I think that's the end of the Cubs, or actually it's the middle of the Cubs series. He's going to pitch either the second or the third game of the Cubs series or the first game of the Marlins series. That's gonna align with Jonah Tong's starts. So Tong's probably gonna get the start, and they'll give an extra day to Senga. If they make a decision of pitching both of them, would you tag team? That's the word we use now. Tag team them two together with Senga coming out to start the game and Tong coming out of the bullpen. That's an issue because I don't know if either one can do it.
Yes, I would do that. I would do that in that order too. Kodai Senga starts and Tong comes in and provides the long relief. That's what I would do it. I mean, I just, needing to mix Kodai Senga back into the equation is just going to add a different layer of difficulty for this team. But if Senga can provide something for this team and be competent somehow, some way, that is just an extra boost for this already struggling rotation. I feel like, I don't want to get ahead of myself here as well because the jury is still out, quote unquote, about these starters and how they will perform down the stretch. But Yeah, like Telly's saying, what if Senga
Right.
has found it? Yo,
Yep.
what if? That's a great comment. What if? Like, if he has, that's fantastic. You're always going to sign up for him to be, starting a playoff game for you if he has it. And the Mets have to give him the opportunity to prove that. I would say that's been the plan all along. And at that point, I know that Jonah Tong just went out there and delivered an excellent performance over 82 pitches, but he takes the back seat to the bullpen role in that tag team duo that we're talking about here, just like Clay Holmes and Sean Manaea. And I just feel like if that's the case, maybe this rotation can figure something out and get
Correct.
hot at the right time and carry that over into a potential playoff series. That would be absolutely huge. The number of arms that this team has, if they are all synchronized and
Yep.
performing at their peak, same thing could be said about an offense, but I'm talking about the continued struggles over the stretch of a lot of the season for the rotation. You're going to, and this is the point that I tried to bring up on the pregame show, I think yesterday. You shorten your room for error in the bullpen that you have to rely on a Gregory Soto or Ryan Helsley in situations where you're not so comfortable utilizing them in, as opposed to getting 6 or 7 really solid innings from Manaea out of the bullpen, Jonah Tong if need be, and David Peterson if need be, if it gets to that point. So I think that with the number of starting arms that they have, being flexible and doing both, coming out of the bullpen, some guys just can't do it. Some guys just can't do it. We haven't seen Kodai Singh out of the bullpen. I'm just going to assume that he can't
Yeah.
do it. You know what I mean? I just don't think that he's the type of pitcher. And I've been saying this for quite some time now over the past couple of weeks that he can't do it. But I'm starting to get a little bit more of a sense of a little bit of confidence. I know that's kind of crazy to say because we really haven't seen much. But with like the first 2 starts of Brandon Sproat, we'll see what he does tomorrow. With his latest Jonah Tong outing, with the way that Clay Holmes and Manaea look together, with the way that Nolan McLean is looking right now, if Kodai Senga, forget David Peterson, because again, I told you that I think he should be in the bullpen. I've lost all confidence in him. If Kodai Senga comes back and he looks good, there's no reason that David Peterson should not be in the bullpen. That's an
Agree.
immediate snap of the finger move. You're in the bullpen. Boom. Go give me 2 solid innings, maybe even 3 out of the bullpen, or maybe even be the 8th inning guy. I was kind of surprised. I know the game was kind of out of reach already, in the 8th inning being 6-1. I was surprised that I was actually surprised that Tyler Rogers didn't go a second inning because he only threw 7 pitches in today's ball game. But I was surprised that Gregory Soto's in the 8th inning as that quote unquote setup man for the Mets. But if David Peterson needs to come into the bullpen because, he's removed from the rotation and he's the 8th inning guy, so be it. I do not
Yeah.
care. I think that what the Mets are looking at right now is a bunch of arms that have the ability to go deep into the playoffs because they just have numerous amounts of starters that they can plug and play. It's up to these guys to peak at the right time. And if they do, I like the Mets' chances against anybody
Okay.
in this
And,
league.
and, and you know what, Chris? That's why it was so disappointing with the start of David Peterson yesterday, because it only puts a bigger spotlight on Kodai Senga. But if David Peterson pitched well and he figured it out, everybody's saying, you know what? I go with Sproat, I go with McLean, and I go with Peterson. I would do that, to be quite honest with you. But with Peterson not pitching well and you still can't trust him, now with Jonah Tong looking like he's showing a little bit of life here, and now with Kodai Senga going to be back in the fold, it is so crucial to get Kodai Senga. Hopefully he figured it out, right? I don't care about the numbers today. I really don't care. He can have 15 strikeouts. He can go 7 innings. I don't care. I don't even care if he gets rocked. I really don't care, right? Because you know what he's trying to do down there. Whatever he's trying to fix, he said his body's not aligned, whatever the hell he said the last time he spoke. Whatever he was working on, and it got fixed. And this is a person, myself, that don't like Kodai Senga, but I'm not going to be stupid enough to think that he's not very important to what the Mets could do in this postseason. He is going to be important. And if he sucks, and not saying the Mets are going to win or lose a game that he pitches in the rest of the year, but if he doesn't pitch well, going into the playoffs, there is no guarantee who's pitching a third game. We don't know who it would be. Like, who do you trust? You would have to just go with McLean, Sproat, Holmes, Manaea. That's the only thing you can hope for. That's probably what you would have to go with. And everybody, I would even leave Kodai Senga off the postseason roster because I don't think you could put him in the bullpen because he's a creature of habit. You can't tell Kodai Senga, hey, we need you in the sixth inning, get up now. Like, be ready in 10 minutes. Like, he can't do that. Like, we know he can't do that. That's why David Peterson is the guy that can go to the bullpen. We even talked about, obviously Manaea would be in the bullpen. But did you notice, I think, what is it, the third start, right? Because it's Sproat, McLean, and then Holmes, Manaea, right? For the finale of the Nationals game.
I believe so.
They said that Manaea is starting and Holmes is coming after him. That's
That's fine.
interesting. I'm surprised they're doing that since it worked out so well. But I guess it's not a bad idea. I mean, it could blow up in our faces, but I wonder if if it works out. Let's say Manaea pitches well, Holmes pitches well, and they had similar outcome to the last time they pitched. That can set up a situation. Let's say it is the Dodgers in the playoffs where matchups might matter, right? If they're not hitting well against lefties, you start Manaea first and then you come with Holmes. Or, vice versa. Holmes will start based on the matchup, whatever the numbers say. So I wonder if that's the reason why they're doing it. I mean, you're playing with fire a little bit because it's going to be against the Nationals. It's not a great team, but you have to win games at the moment. But I'm a little surprised. I think that's what I heard, but I could have been wrong. I think Mendoza said that
Yeah.
Manaea is going to start and Holmes is going to
It
come
could be
out of the bullpen.
It could be with what Ricardo's saying. They're doing it because the Nationals have a lot of lefty
Makes
bats.
sense.
It could be just to get a different look to see, which tandem looks a little bit more, what the comfort level is of Clay Holmes coming out of the bullpen because we really haven't seen that at all this season, surprisingly enough. But you know what? I think that no matter what it is, I don't think it should make too much of a difference, but no matter what it is, whoever is starting the game has a hard stop at 4 innings. I don't care what the pitch count is, and that's exactly what we saw the last go around with Clay Holmes around 55 pitches. Hard stop, you're done, get the next guy in there. And so it should not, I'm not going to say it doesn't, but it should not matter. Whoever the first guy is hard stop. No matter how good he looks, I do not care. He gets 4 innings and next guy comes in. Other thing that I will say and how crucial I think Kodai Senga is for this team to be an option to start if he looks good when he comes back a wild card game is that in a wild card series, you'll have Nolan McLean probably with David Peterson coming into the game after Nolan McLean, I would have to imagine. You would have Kodai Senga followed with Brandon Sproat and Jonah Tong. And I would actually reserve that maybe for game 3, but whatever it is, the mix and match for game 2 or 3 doesn't matter. And then you'll have your Manaea and Holmes combination for that third game. Like, having Kodai Senga back into this rotation and him looking the part is everything for this team because, like I said, the common denominator is if you can utilize Tong and Sproat out of the pen, and if you can utilize Peterson out of the pen, that's going to make the life of Mendoza, is just so much easier, I would say. So, again, there's a lot of things to figure out still. It's not a guarantee that Kodai Senga comes back and lights it up just because of what he's doing in AAA. We'll see how the outing goes today for him. I think you said he was pitching. I'm not sure what time that game is, but the bottom line is that he has to prove it. He has to prove it. And you know what? Let's say he comes back and gets rocked. What do you do if you're the Mets? Well, like, what do you do at that point? Do you leave him off the roster? Probably. You have to. You have to leave him off the roster at that point. So this is his very last chance to prove himself. And I really do hope that he's been working on a different strategy between his pitch selection and not just, his overall mechanics or whatever. Like, he needs a new strategy. That's what I'm saying. He needs to implement the fastball more. He needs to implement the fastball more in unique ways to try to get hitters off balance and set them up for the deadly ghost fork. That should be what he's working on, I hope, and hopefully he has found that. But that's really the extent of what I can say about this pitching moving forward. A lot of question marks. I have a warm feeling. It's not a great feeling just yet, it's a little bit of a warm feeling that maybe, just maybe, we can catch these guys in the right moment of the right season at the right time, and they can carry that over. But it's all about the team. It's all about putting the W in the W column and the win column. And that's the bottom line. I don't care how ugly it is. Put W's together, stack W's together, and get into the playoffs any way possible. That's
Right.
just the bottom line. And Brandon Nimmo said something to the effect of that in a post game today too, that he gave in an interview, saying that he's been saying it all season long. This team needs to get hot at the right time, and they need to get hot right now, because that's the one way that they'll make the playoffs and go deep into the playoffs. So
Yep.
these players, I'm sure, are starting to echo, or they should have already been echoing that sentiment for quite some time. But it is very imperative that now is the time to strike against the inferior competition, and it starts with the Washington Nationals.
Agree. And you're talking about winning games. Ricardo brought up a comment here with game one, game two, game three, who we probably want it to be. But here's the thing: you also got to still win. You got to make the playoffs. You still got to win games during the season. I'm doing the math here. Nolan McLean pitches on Saturday. He would be ready to pitch even with the off day. With, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4. So he would either be available at the end of the Cubs series or the beginning of the Marlins series. If you do the math, if he pitches on the Thursday, which is the last game against the Cubs, he would be 1, 2, 3. He would be on regular rest for the game one of the wild card series. But because of the off day and depending on where Senga pitches, they might have to push him a little further, because again, you have to win. If you have to win those games in Miami, you can't mess around with your rotation. You got to go with your best available. So, there's a strong possibility that McLean might not get game one because of the fact that, let's say the Mets don't have a good National Series, and now the Cubs series is very crucial. Let's say they lose 2 out of 3 against the Nationals. The Cubs series becomes uber important now, and now you have to pitch McLean in that Chicago series, and you roll the dice with other pitchers in the Miami series, which would probably be Kodai Senga and Tong, and that's where you're going to fall into a situation where that's why this series against the Nationals and the Cubs, or at least the Nationals, are very important. You got to at least take 2 out of 3. We all want the sweep, because if you lose 2 out of 3, all that game one nonsense, game two, who's pitching game three, doesn't matter. It goes out the window, because you need every one of these guys. All hands are on deck to make the playoffs. And we might have a situation where, you're going with your fourth best option for game one. And that might suck, but that might be reality. So that's the other side of the spectrum when it comes to, this series being so important. Like Chris says, it's not just important about winning. And, obviously you need wins. You lose this series, that Cubs series becomes so important at the moment. And now you got to use guys you probably wanted to hold back so you can line up for the possible wildcard series, Chris.
I agree. I mean, winning is first and foremost. You got to get to the end, but I do agree it would be a really good idea for them to look sharp and sweep this series. I mean, I know you said 2 of 3. I don't even care. I will be mad. I will be mad if they do not sweep this series. I'm sorry. I've given them so much leeway. I know that it's never really I guess, reasonable to demand a sweep. I don't care. Screw that. The Mets did this to themselves back in April and May, when they were kind of fiddling around and losing games to teams that they should not have been losing to. They did that to themselves.
Yep.
So I'm going to sit here after talking about this team all year long on September 18th at 4:52 p.m. and say, sweep the damn Nationals. Case closed. That's all I got.
There you go, guys. So the Mets beat the Padres 6-1. They get 2 out of 3 against the Padres, and now they finish their homestand for the season against the Nationals with 9 games to go. Right now, they're 2 games up on the third wild card. So, guys,
By the way,
yeah,
sorry, last
yep,
thing that I wanted to mention, we didn't talk about tiebreakers. This matters because if the divisional games of how you can maybe take a
correct.
tiebreaker against the Diamondbacks, right?
Yeah, because the Diamondbacks got 6 more games against Western teams, and we got 6 more games. So again, that's crucial. So because I think the Mets are 1 or 2 games under 5, or 3 games under 500, I think, or right at 500.
I
And I
think
know
they're 2 games back of the Diamondbacks for having
correct.
that
Correct.
tiebreaker,
Yeah,
essentially.
so we need the Diamondbacks to lose and the Mets win. Again, it's crucial because you don't want to get stuck in a tiebreaker and losing a tiebreaker and not make the playoffs. That would suck. And
That's
that's
the
a good call,
Diamondbacks, how
Chris.
that goes.
Yeah. So Mets post-game show, another one in the books, guys. 9 games to go. It's almost over for this season, guys. All the roller coaster ride that we went through is almost over, and it could start all again in the postseason, guys. Thank you for watching the Mets post-game show right here on the channels and on X. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channels, guys. We'll see you tomorrow for a pregame show, guys. Let's go Mets, and have a great night, guys.
Let's go Mets.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets.